All right, we're here with James Smith recording. Today we're talking about how to create compelling offers within your business. Right now it's kind of nutty. A lot of people are having to switch online and get creative with how they're offering. Let me turn that off. How they're offering their products and services, particularly restaurants and gyms, anyone that's been totally shut down. But a lot of the concepts we're going to talk about today can be applicable to any type of business looking to craft an offer that is unique, compelling, gets people to buy. And then we're going to be talking about copywriting concepts and concepts of creating a good ad to get that message out. Because the best offer, if no one knows about it, you've got to be able to get it out to the masses. So I'm here with James Smith. James is the CEO of Bright Idea Marketing. He's been in business going on 10 years, I think.
Going on 10 years, yep.
And awesome dude, really knows his stuff, just fantastic at local lead generation, copywriting. And him and I are in the same mastermind group. That's how we got connected. So thought it'd be great to bring him in, have a great conversation. That's also going to be like kind of a structured training for anyone watching the replay, anyone hopping on live, to learn things like taking what you have already, combining it in a certain way, to have a new offer, make some additional revenue and cash flow, and then also craft a quality advertisement or Facebook, Instagram post to get that out. So thanks, James, for hopping on with me. If anyone's watching and doesn't know me, I'm Paul Kasmus. I do local lead generation as well, a lot of digital marketing stuff, and business as usual here. So James, let's chat. I know this is gonna be a lot of fun. I know you and I have talked a lot, but like if we're starting from the beginning, let's look at maybe a restaurant in particular, because that's like the one that's gone completely for a 180. How do you think like something like that or a gym can craft a new offer and still sell goods and services?
Right. Perfect. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm excited about this. And then second of all, I just want to, right before I get into that, I just want to restate and add on to what you just said. I've had a lot of clients who have come in that, they relied on the retail locations, they relied on the restaurants, the hotels, they relied on actual physical foot traffic. And a lot of them are really hurting right now. And this is the perfect moment for them to adjust and pivot. I posted this in my Facebook page or a group or something about every business needs to adapt. And I think, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of this with your clients because you have a lot of local lead gen clients as well, that there is a way and there's a path for pretty much every industry to adapt to the online world. So I think offers are, the most important thing here when it comes to adapting. So anyway, I'm excited about jumping into that.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would look at is, if you're relying on a lot of foot traffic, obviously going digital or going online with your clients is the path to do that. And what I would think about is at a high level when you're coming up with an offer is write down the main elements of why people buy your service to begin with. Why are your customers right now? Second thing is that'd be like what makes you unique, what makes what you do different than alternatives. And the alternatives could be competitors, but more importantly, in this case, it could be alternatives such as going digital. So the reason why I want you to take that step is you could say accountability could be one factor that being in person at a gym would be unique than doing something online. So the walkthrough there is, okay, now that I know that's a unique thing that was available for people to come in, how can I create accountability online? How can I take some of that uniqueness and make it online, put it online? So, one example there is live calls, live training. If it's a gym, offer free sessions over Zoom. So that's one way to think about how do I take the advantages of what was here in person and create as much of that advantage online as well. Does that make sense?
Dude, I love that. And I think that illustrates it perfectly because it's the concepts of competition. It's the same now as it ever has been, but it's kind of amplified because if you're thinking of a gym, and I love the example of like for a gym, like the outside world is your competition. Like, why is someone going to choose to pay money when they could run around their neighborhood, do push-ups and burpees? And what you said of that accountability, I mean, that's really what a lot of gyms are actually selling: accountability, teamwork, motivation. Because people come to gyms and pay that money because they can't do that on their own, or they find that they start and then a week into their own home regiment, they're like, fuck, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm tired. But if you have that accountability piece and if people are expecting you to show up, you live up to those expectations. So I think that's fantastic. If a gym watching, it's like, hey, we're not just selling you, or we're not just doing this online exercise or workout. And a lot of them, that's what they're doing. And maybe they're offering it for free, or they're having a paid thing. But if their messaging is specific to, continue to get that accountability, because that's really what those gyms are selling, I think. I mean, in addition to like great equipment and whatever, but if it's just, hey, work out, that's not as enticing to someone, because that's not necessarily why they go to your gym in the first place. And I think what you started with of, writing that out, it seems kind of like obvious to you, but you may not realize like that is really why people are spending $75, $100 or more, when they could just go to YouTube and work out, or buy like a DVD for $15 and they suddenly have it all. I love that example specifically with them. So what else do you see is like, if we're looking at, now that all these gyms are online, is there a way, so let's say they're all going accountability, like what are some ideas that you might think that someone could implement to have their offer more enticing than the next person's?
Right. So once we got the first step done, which is write out all of those things, and you mentioned the second thing, which is perfect, which is, they have equipment, right? That's good quality or whatever it is. So that could be another unique value. So the question is, how can we translate to online? Another example there is, okay, maybe you don't have all the right equipment, but if we think creatively, maybe you have things around the house that you never thought of before that could be used or manipulated in a way that's maybe not as good as the equipment, if it's professional, but close to it. So the point to all that is creating all those advantages that you had before. That's what goes into the copy, the messaging, what you tell your new prospects that you're doing that makes it different. And you need to highlight those things that are different for them, right? So you want to stand out from your competition. By doing that, you're taking those unique points and saying, basically, here's how I'm solving this, you can't come to us problem. And also at the same time, you're saying, this is why we're different than everybody else. So what you need to do is you need to highlight those things from step one. And then as you move into the offer, an example of something you can do to provide some value is you could even create an article, or even inside of your advertisement, you can give examples of things that are around your house that you didn't think you could use for exercise equipment. Mm-hmm. Like something of value that's like, that they would not have thought of, but it was creative, and it gives them information like, okay, yeah, I lost the access to the equipment, but here's a good alternative. So that helps out. What was your question?
No, I think, the question of, okay, well now if they're looking at that and offering that value, like maybe shifting more into a combination of services. So we've got the offer, we tell them this is why you buy from us, because we're going to hold you accountable. These are going to be live workout sessions where we're going to say, hey, James, that push-up ain't that good. Or, hey, if you're doing yoga, hey, Paul, correct your pose this way. So you're still getting that accountability and that teaching through that. But if that's something that a lot of folks are doing, I mean, what else can people do to say, we're going to give you this, but then also maybe, hey, prepay for a month's worth of subscriptions, mm-hmm. or maybe other things that they can utilize to leverage what their products are. So if we're looking at just live trainings, are there recorded classes on, the classes on, I guess, or even content on what you can do in your house and items you can make use of, or what are like other, maybe I'm getting at like other services or products that they can offer to kind of bundle up into something that they're going to share with folks.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things in terms of what you can offer them. So yeah, the first thing that you mentioned, which is great, which is the pricing models. Now the pricing models, a lot of people are going to do a lot of the same stuff. So you still need to try to stand out, even if you say, you know, come in for or get a 1 week free session online or virtual training, whatever you want to call it. There's still going to be a lot of people that use that same method, right? So when it comes to the offer, try to go a step further. Try to get a little bit more creative than get a 14-day trial of, you know, of classes or whatever it is. So an example of how to go that next extra step, which is the number 2 point that you made, have pre-recorded trainings. So, you know, if you have people that are allowed to go, if there's staff that can go to the actual gym and pre-record some stuff, if you don't have that already, and have them set them up, then they can already have stuff that can start now. So maybe their trainer is not available for the next couple of days because they just signed up. Maybe they can get started stuff right now. So that could be another hook, is instantly get started with your training now and don't have to wait for a trainer. So that's another angle that you definitely want to highlight of get instant access, right? So yeah, so that's a good one. And then yeah, the way that you offer things. So pricing models, there's a lot of things out there, especially in these times. One of them is like a deferred payment. You know, you can have, you know, you pay a small percentage up front and you don't pay until a few months later. There's tons of actually $10 trials where you pay $10, you get full access for a couple months, and then it goes up to the normal rate. Mm-hmm. And then there's just access out there now. There's programs that they're literally charging $10 a month forever. And what's great about that is it's such a low barrier to entry. It's such a small line item on a credit card transaction. People rarely ever cancel that. And when people come in and they get that $10 a month, they can get access to the courses. Maybe they can get one time where they talk to an instructor, and then there's an upgrade. So they pay the $10, which is a very low barrier to entry, which is a very important point when it comes to offers. You want to get people in with the least resistance.
Right.
If somebody comes in, and if somebody's scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and they see an advertisement that says, hey, get a year annual membership, and it's, you know, $1,000 or, you know, $500, however much it is. I don't even know. I don't know how the pricing looks, but, you know, and you directly ask them for that $500 and they don't know this gym. They've never heard of it. They don't know what equipment's there. They don't know what access they have. People are not going to buy that right away because they don't know who you are. Versus someone like Apple, who has built a brand, who has built trust. They say, hey, buy our $600 or $1,000 phone. You're going to buy it if you like them and you like the brand, you like the product. So it's totally different when it goes online. You need to make sure that there's enough time and value that they've gotten from you before you ask them for the big ask. So when it comes to the offer, you need to make sure you have a small step, a small investment that they take. And then once they understand the value and they feel it and they appreciate it and just get the result, then they're willing to pay more.
You touched on some awesome things there. And this was something that we covered, or I covered in a different call, but like the concept of, I'll call it warm audiences versus cold audiences. Another way would be your existing customers and people maybe who have never purchased from you. Maybe they're familiar with you, but they've never worked out with you before. So, I mean, I think that's a good kind of segue into, you can have different offers for different types of folks. If with a gym that has active members, well, those are people already spending money. So maybe, you know, they could tweak their existing monthly payments to continue to offer value so those people continue to stay a member. Because I think anything these days is a month to month. There's rarely like super long-term contracts. And to your point of, well, like Apple can just say, hey, here's $1,000 phone, and people will camp out at night to buy it. For this gym, it's the people who already are having an amazing experience with your gym, already know what you're about. And you can say, hey, keep your membership going because we can maybe lock that in forever, or we can have that plus these additional services. But that might be a different offer than maybe you give to someone new. It's kind of not a fully thought, but maybe that concept of how your offers could vary based on who you're speaking to.
Right. So I would look at it. I look at it in terms of phases. It's the phases of the customer journey. That's a fairly common phrase out there. But yeah, the customer journey is what level of trust and result do they have with you? Those are probably the two variables. And yeah, you're not going to offer the guy who doesn't know you $1,000 program or $1,000 Apple product. But you might offer that to somebody who's already gotten great results from you. They have trust with you. They've gained value from you. So yeah, it's just the phases of where they are with you. And yeah, you just needed to determine who you're trying to target first, and then you can figure that out.
Mm-hmm. And maybe last thing, because we kind of just naturally got onto the gyms, which I think is still a great example of an industry totally flipped on its head. And these concepts, I think, are still applicable to literally anybody, of how you can take what you've got and then implement it. But just, yeah, last thing, maybe we can switch to a different example, or maybe move on to different concepts of, to your customers, it's like, how do you play around with your pricing structure and your services? And that's where you really have to know your numbers. I think a lot of people look at digital marketers or marketing in general. It's like, well, I'm just going to spend money and hopefully I'll make money. But at least I know, as far as like what you and I do, it's like, no, we are also kind of like business advisors. Like, we need to know your numbers, your margins, and your revenue to make sure that we're spending money in a way that's going to continually build. And some of the things that we can provide, it's like, hey, you may want to break even or even potentially lose money on the potential sale if you know the lifetime value of that customer. So right. If you've got, if you're a boutique gym owner and you've got suddenly a lot of free time, or just different types of time because you're now there, maybe you can leverage that and having these one-on-one calls with your existing members, or utilizing your instructors to do similarly. How can you all like take one extra hour out of your day to have that personal contact, or even like one-on-one sessions? But it's like, hey, we can do this one-on-one session, but that's going to be an extra however much. You're offering more value than you would, but you can still take in money from it. So I think, because you're still providing that accountability, that personalized care. Maybe you wouldn't normally do that, but I mean, that's something that now you kind of have to do. So if it's convincing your existing members, hey, continue with your monthly subscription, you're going to get these live group training calls or workouts like you normally would. And then on top of that, we're going to throw in maybe some type of support call, and then one higher level up of, hey, and for an extra $20 a month, $50 a month, you can get a weekly call with an instructor. So you've got time, you've got expertise. What is that? And then how do you offer that, or structure it in a way that's going to keep people in so you can keep generating cash? And it might be like, yeah, you get locked into this rate for life, or hey, commit to 6 months, existing customers. We're going to add on some of these additional features, some of these different services. If you lock into this price for 6 months, if you pay up front, you get a discount, or you just pay it. So that way that gym or restaurant or any business can continue to get a revenue stream and just continue to serve their customers, because it's fine. That's why like every subscription service discounts for paying up front, because it's better to have that cash now than it is to spread that cash out over the next year or so. If I'm thinking of other examples, if you're looking at a restaurant, it could be offering pre-packaged meals, marinated, chicken. Just say, hey, buy this chicken marinated. You cook it, or you can purchase our own stuff. Because I don't want to get too much into another like tangent, but again, restaurants are competing with all the other restaurants still. They're competing with Aldi and Kroger and Safeway and Costco and Whole Foods. Those restaurants have to be able to continue to adapt, because it's the landscape hasn't changed. That has always been a competitor for the local mom and pop shop. There's the national chains next door. There's the grocery store. Those are all competing for the opportunity to feed somebody. So how do you stand out? Why are you going to convince someone who might go to Aldi, buy a bunch of food and then cook it to buy from you, or all the online, Blue Apron types? So I think, I don't know, if anything you want to expand upon that to take those concepts we talk about for the gym, and then we could talk more on lead generation.
Yeah. So without getting into another specific example, to kind of go look at the 5,000 foot view that would apply to every industry. There's a couple of things. I was writing this down as we were talking. So you could do a couple of things. You can do two things. One is you can change your pricing model, or two, you can change the services that you're offering. Those are really the two levers that you have, right? So the first lever is the pricing. What you can do is you can offer discounts. The example with a restaurant is, you can just say, hey, we are selling gift cards for when we're back open, but it's at a massive discount. So, for the people who are patrons and who frequently used to go to the restaurant, they would want to jump on that because they know they're going to go back there, and the restaurants need the cash flow now. So that would be one option, is giving a discount for gift cards, right? So that's one simple example. Another one is prepaying. If it's a gym or even a hotel, then that's another example of prepaying for something, getting a discount. And then when you look at the frequency, you can change how often you bill them. Like you can change from monthly to weekly and cut it in half. So then you get more cash flow that's consistent, and it's not every month. So you can get cash quicker, but it's discounted for there's a lot of different ways to change the pricing, right?
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating. I did not think of, instead of a monthly payment, weekly. And if this is too detailed, or I guess obviously maybe a CPA would help advise. Let's say a boutique gym's charging, for round numbers, $100 a month. So, and if we're looking at about 4 weeks in a month, it's like 4.285. Forget the decimal. So $25 a week. Now, what would you think would be a decent discount, so that this gym isn't suddenly discounting it too heavily, but also discounting enough so that there's a lot of perceived value? So instead of $100 a month at $25 a week, which is the even split, what do you think would be a good weekly payment?
Right. So so my second point actually covers that. So let me talk about that real quick.
Sure.
So the second part that you can change is the extra service or change of service that you're offering them, right? So for example, for the restaurants, your example was, hey, we didn't do delivery before, we didn't do prepackaged food before, but now we are. So that's a different service. That's an additional service, right? So that's the other way to adapt. The way I would think about that, like what services you can offer, not to go into details, back to the gym though, you can offer, I'll put it this way, brainstorm on what you think, and ask your customers if you can, brainstorm on what the absolute best offer, the ultimate package, the best thing, every single service included, like what every competitor is doing, put it all on one big list. Say like, this is what everybody is doing, and this is what I could be doing. These are the stuff that we haven't even thought about. Basically, the question is, what would I do if I was a competitor to put me out of business? So that's the question. So what are the things that would put me out of business? And it would be not having these things. Anyway, so you put that list together, and you need to know your financials. You look at the financials and say, okay, so obviously we can't do all these 100,000 things that we just came up with. What can we do where we can still make profit? And you still want to make profit. Sometimes you may want to break even in cases like what we're going through right now. If you can just stay open and survive through the moments, that would be something to consider. Even if there's no extra cash coming in, it might be worth it. So you'd really want to look at the financials, but I would list all the services out there, everything you possibly could do, look at every competitor and write it out, and then kind of dial it back and say, okay, here's what I can reasonably do. Here's what I can do given in the numbers of what I've been looking at. So to answer the first question, 25 bucks a month, it's really up to your profit margins. But if you're going online, they should be a lot higher. So you should be able to change that pricing a lot more significantly. For restaurants, maybe you don't have a retail location, managers that are managing things. So the overhead is probably smaller too. So that's something to think about.
Yeah. And I think that clicked for me, and maybe if this makes sense, if we're looking at that pricing, hey, it's $100 a month. It's going to stay $100 a month. We're going to bill you weekly, but we're going to offer you additional services. So it's a higher value. Or services the same. Instead of $100 a month, it's going to be $65 a month spread out over, but we're going to bill you every single week. So if there's no added services, then weekly at a lower amount, or keep it weekly and then add it, because you're getting more additional cash flow weekly, which is, even though you haven't raised your prices, you kind of are. Dude, the future value of money is insane. When you get a consistent cash flow, it's nuts how valuable that is. Like, I don't know, I in my popsicle business, King of Pops, for anyone who's in Richmond, hopefully knows that. If you're friends with me, you probably do. I learned cash flow. Like, I suck at accounting. Like, I got C's in accounting, and I took like 1 or 2 finance classes, but the best teacher is life. And when I'm looking at, it's January, February, I made like $1,000 a month for the past like 3 months, and I got to pay myself, I got to pay my bills, and I got to stay open for April, or like end of March, April, when it gets nice and I can go out and sell and make some money. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I have these bills due here. I have this money coming in here, these receivables. How do I balance that? And how do I see, when do I have to pay stuff now versus later? And then you can look at, this is a totally different topic, looking at your terms, asking for different terms and stuff. But if your cash flow was, instead of getting all that money, let's say the first week in April, I was making more money than I did the previous 3 months. But if I was able to get that and spread that out over the course of like a different time, which obviously I couldn't because I was selling a product, I could have like, hey, I'm going to pre-sell you some caterings. Or if I had caterings already on the books for April, hey, if you pay now, I'll get you a discount. I don't know, just that's what cash flow can do for you. So sweet, dude. Awesome stuff. Dude, my homeboy Trevor just hopped on. He hopped off, that jerk. Maybe he's coming back. Cool.
I've got one more idea right before
Yes.
we jump away. Okay. So I was just thinking about this too. Since we're throwing a whole bunch of ideas out there, this might be just an idea video, which could be useful. You could also look at customizing things. So for example, if a restaurant, what would be kind of cool is, you could even do an online Zoom meeting and say on Wednesday, we're doing a live where we talk about all the ingredients or all the different things that we do. And basically you can vote on the next dish that we're going to create. So that would be custom. If they decide to do the delivery route and they do the prepackaged foods, obviously that's huge. Like, pick your next dish that we're going to offer. Like that gets people way more involved. It's an event people can come to, stuff like that.
Dude, I think that's a fantastic idea. And that kind of user generated content or suggestions, it draws people in to have an influence. And it's like them telling you what they want and then you giving it to them. That's like business marketing, not just 101. That's the fundamentals of literally how anything works. So dude, that's a fantastic idea. Well, on that, do you want to move now into, you've got this offer, how do you craft it and write it and present it to the world so that they see how amazing it is? Is that something we've got time for?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that. So, so just to break this out, what we just talked about for the past 30 minutes or so has been the high level concept of what type of offer we can give people, whether they're existing customers or whether they're brand new prospects that don't know you. So get that figured out first. Once you have the idea of the offer, of the services you're going to offer and things like that, the next step is obviously, how are we going to communicate what that offer is? So that's kind of step 2, which is what we're talking about now.
Perfect.
So the best way to start there, how do you want to approach this? We can go high level. We'll talk about any platform, or we can talk about Facebook specifically.
I I think, yeah, let's start like Facebook, Instagram, because I think that's where a ton of people are currently starting. So we could look at two things, the two ways of promoting. There's just the general everyday stuff that you post, and then there's the paid side, which is super simple. We could give like the very quick high level stuff of like, do not just click boost. I mean, that's like tip number one. Don't just click that boost button.
Right.
But yeah, let's look at like if they're just posting, let's say once or twice a day, and they want to communicate their new offerings. What do you see that post look like? What's some good guidelines for people to create something engaging?
Great. So I'll keep this part very short, but what I'm about to say, the disclaimer, if you're posting on your page or an Instagram page, just realize that even if you have 1,000 likes or 500 likes or 200, however many likes you have, a very, very small percentage of people are actually ever going to see your post. So on Facebook, for example, it's averaging around 2%. So you can have 100 people like your page, 2 people are probably going to see it. Now there's a lot of other variables, like if people like it and share it a lot, if it's a video, there's a lot of variables that increase that view rate. But just to keep things simple, if you really want to bring in a new customer, or if you want to keep engaging with your current, advertising on Facebook is almost necessary to get your message out. So just want to underline that for a second.
Yeah, I think that 2%, it's a tiny ass number, and anyone who's posting, like, you've seen that, like, I've got 5,000 followers. Why are only 1,000 of them or less seeing my stuff? And that I think a concept that helped me, and hopefully this is valuable to people looking at it, it's like you can't just, if you just post something and expect everyone to see it, like, you're competing even when you're posting your free stuff. I mean, there's no free lunch, because the simple fact of the matter is there's only so much space in your newsfeed for Facebook and Instagram to be able to show you or show your stuff to your customers or to your potential customers. So you're not just competing with other restaurants, gyms, or people in your industry. You're competing against other people who are posting that these people are following. You're competing against other people that are running ads. And so that's why you only get that 2%. When you hear that number, like, damn, that's not a lot. So part of it is just creating quality content, and that takes time. Like, gone are the days you can just throw something up and everyone's going to see it, because it's just competition. It's not like Facebook, oh, we're going to force you to pay. It's just straight up economics. It's supply and demand.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very true. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just a good disclaimer to talk about before we get into the specifics of copywriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the high level, here would be the first step that I would look at. So in terms of an offer, if we go back to step one, or phase one, and the first step that we even talked about in this video, which was figure out what you can do to innovate or pivot, if you will, and figure out what those main benefits are. So, and then also what you're doing different from your competition. So those two lists, that needs to be at the very top of your advertisement. So I'll get into details in a second here about how to craft it, but just realize that needs to be at the very top, because that's what sets you apart, and you need to make sure that's the first thing people see about you.
Right.
So so when you start writing an advertisement, there's what's called features and benefits. Do you mind if I jump into features and benefits?
Please do. I love this concept.
Okay. All right. So whenever you're talking about advantages of your service, there's what's called features and benefits. And I like giving an example of a vacuum cleaner, because it's very easy to understand. So an example of in a vacuum cleaner, a feature is something that is the actual logistic, the actual feature, the actual item that gets attached or that is a part of the vacuum. It is just simply what the function does. So an example is there's a swivel head, let's say, on the vacuum cleaner. So the swivel head swivels. That's a feature, it has a swivel head. Another feature would be it has a power off button at the top. So that's it. The feature is there's a power button at the top, right? Another example is there's a big container that can hold a lot of stuff, right? So it's just a container. That's the feature. So features are good to have, but you don't put that in the very beginning because people don't care about features. They care about the result. They care about what they're going to get out of buying this product. But they want to know what the features are. They want to know why they're going to get the benefit. They need to know the reasons why, but you don't want to talk about that first. So features always need to go further down. The first thing you need to talk about is benefits. So here's an example of a benefit for a vacuum cleaner. So we talked about the swivel head. The benefit of having a swivel head is reach hard to reach areas underneath the couch, around the lamp, near the TV. Because it's flexible and it moves, you now don't have to kneel down, get on your knees, not being able to reach things, and have to get another small vacuum just to reach the hard, the small areas. So that's a benefit of the swivel. So that's the real emotional reason why that's the actual result of buying this product.
You might not believe this. I literally bought a vacuum cleaner a week and a half ago. And I'll just give this quick example, because I know you're got more stuff coming.
Yep.
Like they had, whatever the size of the container is, like, hey, it's a 1 liter thing. I'm like, cool. I don't care how big this thing is, but it's like so that you don't have to change it quite as often. Quite as often. And in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, that does suck when you constantly have to change the all the lint or whatever it is. So that is the benefit. Like, I don't care how big it is, because I don't know how big is it supposed to be. The average vacuum cleaner person, I don't know, is that a lot? But when they tell me, oh, you're not going to change it quite as often, well, that's what I want. So anyway, it's funny. I'm like, oh, vacuum, I bought that.
That's amazing. Yeah, and you bought on the result. And yeah, people may not know, like you said, I have no idea what a container size should be for a vacuum. But, if they tell you, hey, don't replace it for weeks, don't have to touch or replace the container for weeks, or our filter doesn't have to be replaced for months, whatever it is, like, that's like, okay, you just saved me time. You just saved me struggle. So that's more of the emotional side of things. It's the benefits, it's the result. So that's an awesome example. And then, finally, just to wrap the rest of it up is, the power button, easily access the power button whenever you have to turn it off quickly. You don't have to bend down to push the power button. You have to do, whatever it is another benefit. So while you're vacuuming, it's more convenient. So convenience is a great example of a benefit. So that's features and benefits. Just again, in general, put the benefits at the top, and then give what I call the justification or the reasoning why that benefit exists or how it can exist. And it's because we have these features that you get the benefit.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of like how that is structured on a Facebook post or even Instagram, is if it's starting with those things that people want, like, oh wait, this is going to save me time. I don't have to replace it as much. Sweet. It's having me imagine an emotion and a positive experience that I'm going to get from this vacuum. Obviously, if I'm looking at this ad, I want a vacuum. But then, like you said, below, because for both of those platforms, I have to click see more to get down there. A lot of people won't, but if they're drawing me in with those positive emotions and experiences that I'm going to get as a result of buying this product, well, then I'm going to see more, and then I'm going to get hit with those features. It's like, oh wow, it like helps support everything that I just read. Which I don't know if you're going to get into more, because just know, like, if you put your best stuff at the bottom, well, those people aren't going to get there. So lead with and people get it twisted off and like, well, yeah, of course. Well, let me tell you what size motor is on this. Well, to the average consumer, like, is that good? That's the question. People are dumb when they're shopping. People aren't going to be like super educated. So it's like, why? So if we're looking at like a pre-packaged meal from a restaurant, they've never done it. Hey, this meal's just all laid out, so all you have to do is throw it in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. That's it. Oh, sweet. Because I might be worried, but if you're just telling me here's all that's in it and here's like blah, 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 I'm like, well, now I don't know if I can cook this. I don't know if my skills in cooking can match it. So I'm going to get confused and leave. But if you put that at the bottom, after you've already drawn me in, hey, here's how simple this is, and you can get a fantastic meal in 15 minutes, sweet. And then when I click learn more or see more, because the post doesn't gonna show everything, I can then learn more about it, which is going to further enhance my desire and willingness to buy.
Absolutely. Man, you brought up so many different points here. I love this. So first thing I want to point out is it's not always that people are dumb, and I know that's not what you meant either.
Right.
It's not that people are dumb. There are people that are ignorant on the subject for sure. But there's also people that don't want to spend a lot of time and their attention span is very small.
Yes.
So it's not that, you may have the person who's really into cars or really into stuff. And, for them, they'll probably want to, dig into that more detailed stuff. But you still have to give them the benefit ahead because you've got to intrigue them and show them why what they're about to click on is more unique. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's ignorance, but it's also people don't want to waste time. So if you put the benefits, the emotional reason and experience up front, then they're more likely to do that. Mm-hmm. And then the second point is when you have thinking about an ad, and we're getting really high level here, so I'll stop after this and simplify it. But whenever you create an ad, the idea is to create emotion, because people respond and act with emotion. There's almost none, and probably no actions or things that are bought that are not without emotion. You can buy food at the grocery store. It's based on emotion. You need to eat, and it creates an emotional response when you're hungry. You don't logically say, yes, I would like to take this thing that I can just eat. It's not, everything is an emotional response. So what you want to do as a high-level structure is start with the benefits at the top, the emotional reasons why people should keep reading and why and how to get them and getting them excited. But the second part is you need to provide credibility, and you need to ground it and give the logical reason why they should purchase. Now, if you think about it this way, if you just give them emotion, I've seen a lot of advertisements out there that they seem like they're the Energizer Bunny and there's exclamation marks everywhere. Like, yes, the best thing ever. This is awesome. Like the typical car dealership cliche, if you will, the guy jumping around. Would you believe we have this much for this much? This car has brand new audio, like that emotion when it's shown on text is great because it builds emotion, which gets people ready and set up to take action. But it's not until they believe you and trust you and believe that what you're selling can actually give the result, right? So that's why we do benefits. And then we do features to say, and here's the why, here's the reason why you're going to get those benefits. Here's the reason why this is going to come true. And if you don't have that in place, if you don't ground it, if you don't give them a good reason, they're not going to take action because they just don't have enough. They then get excited. There's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of ads out there that people are jumping around. They're excited. They're full of energy, but people don't buy it. They feel great. They feel awesome watching the video, but they never take action because there was no logical reason to connect the dot between that benefit and that emotion.
Dude, that's beautifully said. And I don't even think, it's kind of high level, but it's like simple concepts that crop up in a multitude of ways. But when you actually see the root of it, actually things become very, very simple. I call it like, seeing the matrix. It's like seeing the matrix of marketing, what's going on behind the scenes when you can understand the two. And so if you think of like leading with the benefits, it's like, it's a way to grab people's attention. We don't really need to talk about how distracted we are in 2020. People have been saying how distracted human beings are since like TV was first invented. So we all know how distracted we can be, but people can focus if you grab their attention, and if you grab their attention on their emotions, because that's what people want to experience things, not logic. So you get their emotional brain involved. Ooh, they can think about these positive things that they're going to get. Oh, I can save time, or I can enhance the quality of my life. I can look better, whatever. Then as their emotions are kind of kicking in, like, man, this sounds great. Well, after a little bit of time, their logical brain starts kicking in. And if you notice this in yourself, we all go through this. This is like hardwired into us. It's the question of, how do I know that this is real? How do I know that someone's not trying to scam me or fool me? Because we all have that fear. I think, it doesn't take long for you to start having a healthy amount of suspicion on products and services that people offer. How do I know this is real? So you get them emotionally involved, and then your logic brain kicks in. You start to question what you're feeling. Then, as you said, you hit them with that logical stuff, with the features showing like, hey, this filter or this like container and this vacuum is made with this type of plastic, so it never breaks. If this is how like the hinges and gears are worked out, so you can easily take it out, dump it out. You never have to touch anything. Whatever, you're building it, and then you can throw all that technical stuff to help support the emotion side. So then that completes the sale in someone's mind to the prospect. They're emotionally charged up. They can feel it. They're logically balancing that because they can see the stats. They can see the testimonials. They can see why you are a valid company, not a snake oil salesman or a sleazy car salesman. Like, yeah, if this car salesman's only telling me how amazing it is, but it's like, dude, I want to take a look under the hood. No, but just imagine driving, with the top down. Okay, but yeah, I can imagine that. It sounds awesome. I want to see what's under there. So I think having the two, because if you only do one and not the other, it's not going to work. But also if you do have both, start with the emotional, start with the benefits. And it's easy because if you're looking at a logical statement logically, you're like, well, of course, why wouldn't someone want a motor like this or with all these technical details? But you're going to miss the logic. People aren't going to pay attention to logic at first. So I think the way you laid it out is brilliant, and it's the simple process that you can follow. And you might look at it and be like, I don't see how this is any different, but the order is super important. It's so important. It's the difference between someone stopping, looking, reading more, taking action to just scrolling and scrolling.
So that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly right. There's one line that summarizes everything we talked about here. People buy with emotion. I wrote it down here so I didn't forget. People buy with emotion, but they justify with logic.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you mind if I talk about a few more things on the beginning of the ad?
Dude, let's do it, man. I love how this is flowing. I think we've got each section logically laid out. I love how this is coming together. It's super natural. So yeah, continue, please.
Awesome. Okay, so let's come up with an example, because this will probably make it easier for me to structure it and other people. Like, what's an industry that we could talk about?
Ooh, how about I deal with dentists a lot. We could talk about dentists move into virtual consults, if that's what you'd like to. Yeah.
Sure. I know nothing about it, but we can try.
Let's do it, because I think that's even better, because we can take these concepts and see how to apply them.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you, what is the pain that people experience, or the emotion they experience before they get this service done?
It might be, they're looking at their teeth, they're looking at their mouth, and like, man, what's going on? Like, is that healthy? Is that good? Do I have a cavity? Why do I have this toothache? Maybe they just are more aware, especially right now, of what's going on with their teeth, or thinking, do I need an implant? I have whatever. So I think, yeah, just looking at what they've got and thinking like, or maybe the simple question, ooh, is this serious? That might be the thing.
Yes. Okay, great. So I got two things out of what you just said. The first one is concern for their health. And two, if they're experiencing current pain right now. So those, from what you said, sound like those are the main pain points. So before I go deep into the rabbit hole here, I just want to state for everybody. So step one is find your pain, find the pain point, find the reason why people would want to consult with you, reason why people would want to talk with you, because your business only exists to solve people's pains or problems. Yes, you give them benefits. Yes, you give them features. You give them all these great positive emotions, but there's a real problem that they have right now. For restaurants, you're not good at cooking, so you need access to good food, or you're just straight hungry and you need food. For gyms, you're out of shape. You don't feel good about yourself, and you don't have access to equipment. You don't have access to training. Those are problems, and your business exists only to solve problems. So step one is list out the pain points that you are going to solve. So that's step one. So you said concerned about health and worried about pain. Now, obviously, as you know, Facebook, you have to be careful with how you talk about pain in regards to, you know, the health category. They're careful. They don't want you to get too personal. But after you figured out what the pain is, the best thing I would start out with is ask them a question. Are you concerned about your health when it comes to your teeth? Or do you see, and we'll have to dial this back for Facebook, but I'll just go the extreme here. Are you concerned that your teeth may not be healthy and you might lose them? Something to that effect. Or maybe something more general would be concerned about the health of your teeth, or concerned about whether your teeth is healthy, you know, something like that. So ask them a question. And the reason why we ask a question, this is probably 80% of the ads that I write, is by default, people want to answer questions that are asked of them. They like talking about themselves. They like thinking about themselves. So if you ask them a question, it opens up the dialogue. If you start out the other way and make statements, now statements is a whole separate category, but if you just start talking about yourself, you know, as the company, the person advertising, people don't care. You know, you're just another guy on the street with a loudspeaker, just blasting, you know, look at me, look at me. That's not interesting. But if you ask that person a question, a personal question, they're more likely to engage and answer the question in their head. So I would start out with a question. Typically, for the most part, that's a good way to start. And then give them something that's related to what you've seen as a professional, other people who have felt that same way. So this is kind of a feel, felt, found. This is a very common structure inside of sales. Feel, felt, found is basically if someone has an objection or a problem or a question, your response should be, listen, I completely understand your position. In fact, I have a lot of other people that have felt the same way. That's the felt part. I know a lot of people who felt the same way, and it's a completely reasonable thing to ask. But what they found is that once they do X, Y, Z, then they felt more comfortable about their health with their teeth, or they were at ease, or they had clear steps on fixing their health issues. So the feel, felt, found is actually a great framework in this case. There's 100 ways to approach this, but I'm trying to give just one example to keep it streamlined. So I would start that way and just say, you know, are you concerned about your health? The next line could be something like, this is a common concern among people who are 65 plus, who may have dentures, or, you know, whatever the audience is. And then go into the feel, felt, found. And that gives them, it makes them feel more comfortable. And you just literally just gave yourself a little promotion at the very end. You said, what we found with our patients is when they consult with us, they find out exactly what's going on and they feel more comfortable and at ease about their health. So you just promoted yourself a little bit in there, but it's very subtle. It's very subtle.
Yeah. Well, because you're promoting yourself through the results that you've gotten from your past clients. So like in that very short framework, you're kind of giving a little bit of a testimonial, you're addressing someone's true need, and, you know, desired outcomes. Because I think with the dentist, it's fascinating because it's almost like the reverse of, you know, if we're talking about, and actually you can do both, you know, like, hey, do you want to have like a beautiful smile with just brilliant looking teeth?
Yep.
Because another way to do it from like the previous example of talking about positive emotions, it's like, a flip side is, hey, here's how we're going to reduce negative emotions from you. Here's how we're going to take away a potentially bad experience and flip it into something different. So if it's like, hey, are you like concerned about, the health of your teeth because you can't see a dentist right now? Oh yeah, I am. Well, here's how I want to take that away from you, so you can present it in that way. But I don't know, a little bit of tangent, but the feel, felt, found is just, it covers so much and so beautifully laid out that it acknowledges where people are at. It acknowledges that other people have felt that, so they're not alone. It's a concept. People want to feel connected. They want to feel part of a group, and they don't want to be like the one outlier, like, oh, this is never going to work for me. It goes back to that justification of, is this real? If we're looking at the features and how to manage that with the benefits, like, no, this is common. And then here's what the outcome is that you probably want in the specific case of our particular niche. So if someone's looking at, well, how do I take my offer and write it out? If we're looking at bringing this all like full circle, you've got your new offer, and it might be just your core offer, because I don't think that's really changed. It's just how you're presenting it. Do you want accountability in your workouts? Do you want to get personalized training? Here's why you come to us and not to the big box, gym, the Globo gyms, or why you don't have like some, national like online course where there's no personal attention, no accountability, like a Peloton. Why would people buy your stuff and not a Peloton? It's like, well, let me remind you. And you can do it in that way, crafting your offer. Hey, a lot of people have felt like, man, maybe, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, because I think I posted this in our mastermind of like making too many justifications or kind of apologizing. Like, hey, many people felt like, yeah, this is kind of expensive. $125, $150 maybe for a boutique gym is a lot. And a lot of people have felt, or what do we say? You feel that way. They felt that maybe it was too much or that they could do it elsewhere. But what they later found was that this money was totally worth it, because they got the accountability. They got the team camaraderie feeling of being part of our tribe and part of our group. And they found that they didn't get that elsewhere if they maybe tried it. So I don't know, like if that is a tactic to kind of put your price forefront and say, hey, this is why it's this expensive. And a lot of people have felt the same way. They felt that this is a lot of money when compared to a $10 a month Globo gym. But then they found that their results were better, that they stuck with it, that their quality of life just improved because they got all these other benefits.
Yeah. I think that's a very great point. In trying to keep it high level, keep it basic. Yes, I think that's a very great point, something to think about. The only thing I want to comment on that is just make sure that you've given some credence of credibility and showing the value before you start justifying it. The justifying doesn't have to be at the very end. It could be halfway through, but make sure you give some credibility and some of the features of what they're going to get and benefits before you give the justification, because you'll scare people away before they even know the value.
Right. So if that section, if we're looking at an ad, that's not what we're going to lead with. We're still leading with our benefits. We're still leading with the positive emotions and experiences that people get and will have by choosing our product, whether it's a fucking vacuum cleaner, a pre-made meal at a restaurant, or a boutique gym, or literally anything else. Hit them with the benefits, some features, and then maybe into a feel, felt, found type of format. And if you are, like you just said, if you are justifying a higher ticket price, have that below. Because if they're reading that far, they've already been emotionally charged up. They've already seen, okay, this is real and legit, because you've backed it up with proof, with testimonials, with the features of it, and all the reasons why it makes those benefits actually work. And then you get into a price justification, because maybe that is something that people are thinking about. Hey, my stuff is, I cannot price it lower. Like I'm a restaurant, I have good quality ingredients and meat and whatever it may be, but I can't, there's no way I can compete with Aldi. But you start with the benefits, features, and then if you want to even justify, hey, this is why this costs that much. It's what people found from it. Because again, it's that people have that buy-in. And this is a whole other conversation, but I think it's worth just touching on, and you can trust James and I that this is true. People think, well, if it's a long post, no one's going to read that. We're distracted. And like, I think, people do. The people who will read all of it are people who are going to buy it. And why are you going to withhold information for someone who could buy that, if they don't have it all, they're like, well, I'm going to leave now. So having a long post isn't a bad thing. And just a couple quick tips on it, make it readable, not one huge fucking block of text. Break it up into small paragraphs. And a paragraph online is a sentence. 2 sentences tops, I think. You don't want to have, however it looks, and you can look at the format. So a little bit of a tangent from me, but I think if you're looking at, well, Paul and James, now this ad is really long, that's fine. If you follow this format and follow the structure, people are going to get sucked into reading it because they want to keep finding out more. And you have to have all those components in there. It's like, what would you say to someone if you were face to face with them? You're not going to just leave out testimonials. You're not going to leave out the feel, felt, found part. You're not going to leave out the features or the benefits. You got to present it. It's digital. People still need those components. So there's a time and place for super short copy, but if you're selling to new folks or a new offer, you need to have it. It's probably going to be a little bit longer. So.
Absolutely. Oh man, so many rabbit holes. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you said, 100% true. Longer post, don't be scared of it. Like it's, one thing to respond to, oh, the post is the post too long? It should be as long as it needs to be to get across what you need to get across. But also people will read for as long as it's interesting. So if you're worried about posts being long, then it's probably not interesting. So I would go back and rewrite it. So have other people read it yourself. If you find yourself stopping, getting bored, then that's a problem of the writing process. Because as long as something is intriguing, look, they've got movies that are 3 hours long, right? And probably more now. I was looking at a list of movies with my girlfriend, and there was a movie literally 3 hours long, and people watch it in the millions, hundreds of millions. So as long as it's interesting, people continue watching. Second thing I want to say about that is there are also different types of people. There are people that just want to get to the bottom line. Tell me what this is all about. I don't really care. That's just their personality, or maybe that's their stage in finding out about this product. And then there's people that are skimmers. People just skim through. They want to see the big data points, and then they're ready to go. And then there's people that are very meticulous. They'd rather read every single detail, or they like to experience the whole thing. So you're writing a long post, not thinking that 100% of the people are going to read everything. Most people will not read everything, right? So, but if you have all the information in there that each one of those 3 personalities would like, you've covered it.
And that's a fantastic point, because if you only think of the immediate and then you make a decision based on what you think could happen, you might make the wrong decision thinking, well, I'm not going to do it, Paul, James, you dummies. No one reads the whole thing. Well, yeah, we know that, but it's pretty commonly known, and who knows what this number is right now in 2020 or a few months ago in 2019. The common thought of someone needs to see an advertisement or see a message 7 times before they take an action. And I think that's been around for quite some time, and it hasn't changed. So if you're thinking of not just that first time, but the 7th. So if I'm seeing, favorite restaurants offering this, I'm going to read some of it. I see it again. I read the same thing again. 3rd time. Okay, now I'm a little bit more interested. And actually, I do have a need for this now that I think about it. I'm going to read more. So over the course of time, one person is going to read that whole thing, or they just have it open in their tab and come back to it. The skimmers skim, they see it, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Then they come back to it and consume more and more. All that components are there for them to take advantage of at their convenience, and they need to see that over and over. So it's another concept, like it's fine to repeat your content. It's fine to repeat the same message, maybe in a little bit different wording, but your core offer is always there, and it's always structured in a way that is going to entice people to buy. If you're only thinking of that first immediate, hey, I posted, Paul, you told me to post, I didn't make any money. Well, that's short-sighted. Like you can't expect anyone to take immediate action on something. And that's why it's a process. It's not flipping on a light switch. So hopefully, I mean, if we can convey that, and like you said, there was a lot of other stuff I think we could go into. And it's one of those, like, it does take time. Again, you were competing with other folks to get our word out. And that's always been the case. It's not like it's new now. So, and if you're like, Paul, that takes a lot of time to write something that long and edit it and script. Yeah, it's work. I mean, you're competing with people to have the best ads. You could have, like, and the sad case of affairs, I mean, someone can have a really shitty offer or like a decent offer. But if they communicate it fantastically, that's still an advantage. Now, is that sustainable because their offer at its heart isn't great? I don't, not necessarily. But, but the best offer in the world is people are thinking, you got to convince me. You know it logically because you know it. If you fully believe in your heart, this is the best thing I can offer. It's also your obligation to best communicate that, because otherwise someone else is going to do it better than you. It sucks. People are always, again, I don't have enough money to support every restaurant in town as much as I'd like to. So the ones I'm going to support are the ones I already have a connection with, the ones I already know. And that's a whole other topic of like just establishing relationships. But yeah, dude, I think if we're looking at it from that perspective, structure it right. Don't be afraid to be too long, and know that it's going to take a handful of times for people to see it no matter what. And that if it's taking you a while, good. That means you're probably taking more time than the next man or the next business. Because I know personally, I'll get hold up like, man, if it's taking me this long, I must not be doing a good job. I must be doing it wrong. I'll just leave it. It's fine like this. Well, that might not work out for me. But yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts on this? I think this is a good time to wrap.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a few things. Just want to close a few loops that we opened. First thing you said a few minutes ago about talking about the positivity and the emotion side of the dental ad. I just want to point out there that yes, you may want to take the positive approach, but still understand it comes from the pain point, and that's where you can decide what angle you want to go about it. Whether it's if you're concerned for something, or whether you're trying to approach something, just know that list you're writing is it's a pain point, and whether it's portrayed as a positive or a negative in your ad, that's where it originates. So just want to close that loop, and then there's call to action we could talk about, but I don't know if you want to talk about that. Just it's a 30-second thing. But besides that, I just wanted to say the companies that are the best marketed are the ones that win, at least short term. So you need to have advertising. You need to get in front of people. If you think about the biggest guys out there, I mentioned Apple already, McDonald's, Target, Walmart. I just listed 3 or 4 brands that are top of my mind because they market to me so well. And it's those companies that make the most money because they're the best marketed. So for those local people out there that need services, and you want to you need to talk with Paul, because this is critical for you to survive. And if you want to thrive and actually have control of your business, advertising is the way to do it. You can't just rely on referrals, because referrals are just people that are within your small network that you have. You need to reach people who have never heard of you, like Apple. None of the executives at Apple know who you are. They didn't network with you to try to get you to buy their product. They advertised to people they didn't know and people that didn't know them before. So you need to make sure you get this taken care of, especially during these times. Like, the way to survive is to get in front of those people and sell your service to the people who need it. They're looking for you. It's your duty to get that in front of them so they know where they can buy. So just want to say that.
Dude, love that. We'll touch on call to action. Hey, at the end of your post, just say buy now, buy today, to get this, buy. Let people know like it's available. And it seems very basic, but a lot of people might think it's just one more nudge into the right direction. So I used to have struggle with that. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to like have a strong call to action. Like they'll buy if they want to, but no, just say, hey, buy today to get this, get it now. Click here. So yeah, CT call to action in a nutshell. It's not too complicated. Just tell people exactly what to do and when. What to do is click here. When is right now. Like, not like, hey, click when you feel like it. No, people want to be led and they want to be guided. But dude, so awesome, man. I loved all the stuff that you covered, some fantastic points and structure that people can use and use immediately, and just trust James. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a long time, and the structure works. And if it looks like it's kind of innocuous, like, well, I don't really get it. That's the point. A good ad doesn't necessarily even seem like an ad to the people who are going to buy it. So, dude, again, no one's on live right now. I think we've gone about an hour. If at this point, I'll have the replay up, people will see it. Yeah, I think a lot of great shit. So, dude, can't thank you enough, James. Appreciate you. Appreciate the conversation. I think a lot of great value that you showed that a lot of people can use and help their businesses with.
Great stuff, man. This was awesome.
Right on, man. We'll talk later.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye.